Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to give a few minutes for people to start joining. I know there has been a lot of interest in this webinar today, and we're really excited to share a lot of information with you about what's been going on with our developer ecosystem, the updates to SDK, and everything that goes along with that, and some really cool things that are coming in the future for you. So as people are joining, I'll introduce myself here. For those of you that don't know me, I am Amanda. I'm a developer advocate here at Wix. I support the studio ability to write code on your websites. That's the product I mostly support, but you'll see me around chatting about other things here and there. If you have no idea who I am at all, then you may have not been in our Discord community yet, and I will drop a link to Discord in there. It's a great place to meet other developers, meet designers, meet other partners, and kind of see what's going on in the community of builders that are here working with all the tools that Wix has. In addition to that, this webinar is being recorded, and I will be uploading it later to our Wix for Developers YouTube. It will also be emailed out to you, so if you RSVP through the link, you will get that as well. But I will drop the link to our developer YouTube channel in there. If you hit subscribe, you'll always get notified when we post new content and when we upload this video in particular. In case for some reason you have to drop off, we totally understand that. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our guests for today from the Velo product team, from education. We have some people in the chat that'll be answering questions for you. They're going to introduce all of our topics today. At the end, we're going to have a lot of time for Q&A. So as everybody's speaking, feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A feature in the bottom of your Zoom, ideally. If you forget and you use the chat, that's fine as well. At the end of the presentation, we're going to get to as many questions live as we can. If there's so many questions, we just don't have time for them. There's a few things that we want to double check on the answer to. Just to know that we will take all of these questions after the webinar and make sure that they are answered. We're going to post those and get that information out to you. So fear not if your question doesn't get answered. We will see it and we will definitely get back to you. So without further ado, I am going to turn this over to Yoav, who's going to introduce what we're talking about here today. And I'll be in the chat and saying hi and answering questions for you during.
So thank you, Amanda, and hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. First of all, I am also very excited to be here today. It's been a long time since we've done one of these sessions, and just looking at the chat and looking at where everyone's from. This is really a global reach and very exciting to have so many people from so many different countries here with us. I'd like to also introduce Yasaf Volinsky, who's joining us today. I am the head of education for Velo. Yasaf is a product manager who's responsible for a lot of awesome things that you see on the platform. We have a number of other representatives from the Velo team here, as Amanda mentioned, in the chat, in the Q&A. So I really want to believe that you're in the best of hands to get the answers to all the questions that you may have in the session. And again, if we don't get to it, then you can always follow up with us on Discord in the community. And we'll be sure to get you the answers that you need. So what will we be talking about today? We'll be talking about a few things. We thought it would be a good time to do a feature recap. Everything that we've done since we launched Studio. So if you are relatively new to Wix and you've started coding on Studio not long ago, or that you've been around, but maybe you haven't discovered everything, we want to go back and refresh and see what's been added to the platform over the past roughly year and a half. We'll be talking about, mostly Asaf will be talking about the introduction of the Wix SDK and how this is going to affect and improve your website and generally your Wix development experience down the line. This again is a place that you can ask whatever questions that you have about this. We do have some questions that came from the community, and we will address those as well. We also want to give you a sneak peek of things that will be coming soon. Again, a couple of interesting things that will improve your experience on Wix down the line. And at the end, a Q&A session that, again, feel free to put your questions into the Q&A box, and we'll be happy to answer. So without further ado, let's go and touch on what we've been up to in the past roughly year and a half. So since the launch of Studio and since we introduced Wix Studio, we've added a lot of features that have been brought to improve velocity. And among them, we've obviously added AI where we can. There are three main places that we've added AI. The first one is our Wix Studio AI Assistant. The scope of this tool is to have you or whoever you may be working with add kind of like no frills, quick code snippets to your website, as you can see, to create custom interactions where you need them. Now, this is useful, again, specifically when you need to get things done quickly, and you want to just generate quick pieces of code, again, with custom interactions in the editor. Or if you have someone, maybe a colleague that you're working with, and they're more from the design world, or they're less familiar with code, they can give an explanation here of what they want to achieve, and it will develop the snippet for them, and then they can place it straight into the editor with an explanation of exactly what it's going to do. So we do recommend trying this out if you haven't yet. Again, this is one place where we've added AI. Another place that we've added AI is kind of on the other spectrum of the coding capabilities within Wix. As I hope most of you know, and if you don't know, you should know, when we launched Studio alongside Wix Studio, we launched the Wix IDE, which is a full environment in which runs a VS Code server, and in which you can code pretty much the way you want with all the VS Code goodness that you get from this environment. Here too, we have AI capabilities. These are more robust, as you can see here in this screencast that we recorded. Basically, you get the capability to do three things. Number one, to generate code, as you can see that I'm doing here with this interactive chat. We can develop code on top of code, meaning here I'm developing a backend function using WebJS, and we'll speak about our permissions with our functions in a second. But within that function, I can then add additional capabilities. And so just like ChatGPT, Claude, or others, this is very interactive and will develop the code that I need pretty quickly for me to put into my chat. Now, we expect the Wix IDE to be out of beta. There are a number of things that we do still need to tackle with this feature throughout the coming months, but we are really hoping to have this out of beta as soon as possible and in the hands with you, so that you can use it with a more stable version. But again, stay tuned here for a lot of capabilities that will be added to this environment as well. I mentioned WebJS, and with the launch of Studio, we also added improved backend permissions, where you can control at the function level what permissions are given for each function. Up until the launch of Studio, we used JSW files. These are now deprecated, so they are still supported. Don't worry, they will not break. But if you are using still JSW files, we do highly recommend and start providing permissions at the function levels. Will give you more control, more security over what's being run and when and how. 3 levels of permissions that we have for functions that could be anyone, site members, or admins. This page now reports logs that appear on your site, both in preview and live, and you'll get exactly the stream where they're coming from. You can copy over JSONs, really go into the granular level of what's happening within each report, and it is much more intuitive. You can access this page from the dashboard under DevTools, or in the editor also under DevTools. You'll also see there are a number of things. I'm just going to try and run this again. That you'll get in terms of what's appearing. So here on the left, we can see at what level the reports are coming in, whether it's warning, errors, info. It's really easy to see when you open your logs, what's happening there. And once you open the log, you also see that the stream is paused and you can resume that manually yourself. So really a big facelift for this feature. And something which if you haven't used it, we do recommend that you discover. And again, would love to hear your feedback on it. In addition to that, performance is always something that we're trying to improve. Data caching, web method caching, these are 2 spaces where we've added relatively recently the ability to push performance. Data caching happens with certain types of data. It is not applied to other types of data. If you want information about this, it appears in the documentation. The link, you can get to it directly from the dashboard, as you see over here. Down the line, we'll be adding an opt-out feature for caching. So if you do not wish to cache your data queries, you will be able to do this. On the other hand, when it comes to web method caching, again, information in our documentation on how you can opt into this. This is not automatically applied. You do have to add parameters to your request to cache web methods. But if you do know that a lot of data is repetitive and is being requested by your site visitors and you want to deliver that faster, you can cache web method requests and have those delivered to your site visitors a lot quicker. In addition to that, we've improved the test site creation feature. So this is not previewing your website. This is actually viewing a live version of your website. If anyone was familiar with this feature before, what you had was a URL that had a parameter with increasing numbers as you added new test site versions. Right now, what we have is a static URL, and this is a lot easier to share, a lot more stable in terms of what you're testing. Again, here this is currently now available for you. You can use this yourself. So when you want to test your code and its performance in terms of how your site's working without publishing, you can go ahead and just click on the test site to get that URL. I'll say that also here we're adding a number of improvements down the line. This will include you using more sandbox data or data that's more sandbox data will also be coming from our verticals, so that you're not using and not abusing, if by accident or on purpose, live data from your website. The test environment is meant to be a test environment, almost like a staging environment, but it's meant for you, again, to use as a test and not in terms of production. We've also added our site build log feature. Yasaf, do you want to talk about this one?
Sure. So before we add this feature, what would happen is that you will publish your site, and then your code will get published. Well, and you would have to go to production and to your dev tools to debug and catch errors. What we did was favors the order of things, and now whenever you publish your site, we first run the bundling of your code, and if and when we catch errors, we return to you a model that says we found some errors in your code, be it webpack or linear errors, and we send back to you with a build log that specified what errors we found and where they are in your code, both in terms of files and the line number, and you can go debug that. Additionally, because sites are also living, evolving things, we had the option to skip this and publish regardless, because sometimes you test something where you have an older that you don't mind or don't care about, or that some page is no longer accessed, and you can go ahead and publish it without stopping your workflow and just deliver whatever you want to yourselves.
Thank you, Yasaf. The final thing that we want to show off in terms of the features that we've recently added, is our dynamic events that can be created from the properties panel and from right-clicking on an element. So once upon a time, if we're using the properties panel and creating a function from there, that was a static function. It looked like export function, the name of your element, the event, and a regular function. Here, no matter how you create a function, whether it be from the properties panel, the right click on your element on the stage, or if you're writing the function yourself, there is now one convention to write functions in Wix, and that is what is going to be generated no matter where you're going to be creating it. So less confusion in terms of the different syntaxes that are created by us, or how you want to write your code, and hopefully easier for you or whoever you're working with to understand as well. So that's kind of, again, a quick run through of a number of features that have been added so far. We'll get to the new features soon. But I think the big change we want to talk about here is our updated experience with the Wix SDK. And here again, I'm going to hand off to Yasaf to talk about this.
So what's changing? Basically, we've added to the Velo ecosystem, we've added a new capability that will be the default way of doing things going forward, without damaging anything instead of Velo modules, in addition to Velo modules. And Wix SDK is basically using NPM packages in order to communicate with this with business solution that we're providing. Additionally, we've added some development DevX updates, such as installing npm packages directly from your code trim while you're coding. So you don't have to go to package manager. You can still go there, but you can also directly install when you import something. And we've added to your autocomplete in your typing suggestions, we've added the ability to get those in line for whatever packages you're input. So this is true not only for SDK, where you'll get the methods, the types from the Wix SDK, but for just about all npm packages that you will use with input. Go ahead. Okay. Why are we doing this? So there are 5 reasons, and I'll go through them quickly. First of all, using npm packages is the standard way of developing outside of the Wix ecosystem, and we are aligning more and more with the standard way of doing things because this is more robust and has more carryover with the way that we develop things in the industry. Secondly, focusing on one way of delivering solution will allow us to deliver new features quicker. This way we don't have to develop them on 2 stacks, but on the same one SDK, and sell both Velo modules and SDK, and you will get them quicker and faster, and this is an advantage for everyone. The third thing is that we are thinking about Wix as a single stack or a single API, one way of doing things. So we want to align the way that apps are developed in Wix with the way that sites are developed. We're going to bring them both closer. There will be one way of doing things. For you partners, this will mean that you will have a greater offering that you can offer your clients, and carry over between one way of doing things and the other will be seamless. The third, by focusing on the seamless stack, we can improve the developer experience, as I said, with installing npms from packages and directly from the code editor, and with autocomplete, we will continue improving the developer experience through OneDev. And lastly, when you work with npms, when you install npms, you install a pinned version. That means that whenever you install and tested your site, you will know that this version works regardless of anything else that happens. This gives more stability to your code through semantic versioning and knowing that this is the npm packages that you're using and it works. One thing that comes up a lot, and let's tackle this head on, deprecation is not end of life, which means this is another capability. You don't have to migrate your whole project to the SDK. Everything that worked will continue to work. However, for new projects, we recommend using the SDK, and it will become the standard way and the standard entry point in Wix to do things. This is especially true for projects that you expect to maintain long term, and you think that you would need new features down the line. In which case, it's a good idea to work already with the SDK, because when time comes and you want a new feature, you can just update the version and get it. We've also added to our documentation, we're giving documentation in mind, and we've added to the documentation an AI agent that helps you and us whenever you would look for what's the method in the SDK, what's the equivalent package for this modules. You can search for it directly in the documentation. That's the AI agent, and get the response. And here you can see the boom for the developer experience. So instead of using the import statement for the module, this is the import statement for the SDK, and you can see that you get this red notification. It says you're calling this package, but it is not installed. Would you like to install it? Once you hit yes, you get the notification it's being installed, and that's it. This site now has the npm package with the SDK, and it will work. And here you can see within our documentation portal, there is an AI assistant, and if you go and look for it, you can ask, what is the SDK equivalent for Wix-data? In which case, it gives you back the response. this is the API, this is how you can use it, and you can go ahead, transition your site to that, choose this solution.
Thank you, Asaf. So the SDK is a big move. We know that it's a change kind of in how things are going to work, but it is very similar to how we've done things up until now. We do have, again, like I mentioned, some questions that are surrounding SDK that have been asked ahead of time. And I also know, and I've seen here that we have some questions generally about our product. So I think what we'll do is we'll run through our upcoming features. We'll get to Q&A. We'll answer the questions that we have already that we received ahead of time. And then Amanda, I know that you're collecting those questions from the chat. We can also open those up to be answered. So let's talk about some upcoming features that we have. So there are two that we like to show off, and that is, first of all, an improvement in how designers and developers will collaborate on building Wix websites. We have a new coding examples portal, which is also up and coming, hopefully very soon, that will give you a sneak peek of. I mentioned this previously at the beginning, and we do have, it'll be coming out later on, but new AI experiences that will help improve your velocity and take what you've seen so far in terms of AI that we have on our platform to a new level. We've collected a lot of data on how you guys would like to see, AI within Wix, and hopefully you'll see that later on. Not in this webinar, but when we do have news about that, we'll definitely roll it out. And as Yasaf mentioned, when it comes to SDK, this is gradual. We are moving things over, and as APIs are migrated to SDK, you'll get that information in the documentation. But let's have a look at the two things that we can show you, and that is, first of all, the dev design collaboration. Here you'll see that when we have an element that is connected to code, maybe a designer that put an image on the screen, on the website, and you connected it up to some code, and they've decided that image is not really relevant. They want to switch it out. So now, before they delete that element, you will see that it is, first of all, referenced in code, and secondly, if they do try to delete it, you will get a pop-up that will say, are you sure that you want to go ahead and do this? If you are sure, go ahead, no problem. But if you're not sure, you want to show what this code is, how this code is related to this element, you dive straight to the code from the link that you saw just now in the pop-up. So this is a sneak peek of a feature that will be released, hopefully not too far in the future. And again, will just help with the collaboration between different people working on the same website. The second thing that we're going to have is our new code examples that will help you, again, if you're new to Wix, get onboarded, understand how to use the platform, a lot of Hello World stuff, a lot of ideas and inspiration as to what you can do with the various APIs that we have. All this code will be updated. All this code is going to be, all these examples, are going to be built and maintained in Wix Studio. We're working very hard on getting this updated, and again, hopefully it will be released pretty soon. With that, I'm going to hand it over back to Amanda to handle the questions and answers portion of this webinar.
Well, hello. This has been really interesting so far. And if you have questions about SDK specifically, please get them into the Q&A. We will primarily be focusing on that. I saw quite a few different questions about the product come in, and we will probably answer those later, or you will get answers directly in the chat here to keep this really focused on kind of what's coming next. Now, we did have a few questions come in before, and I think there's some things that you wanted to cover first, Yoav, is that correct? So yeah, let's start with what's the future of $W, one of the big questions I keep getting. So what is the future of $W? What can we say about that right now?
Okay, so $W will eventually get to the SDK. I will say this is probably the most complex element to do in the SDK, and I don't know as of yet what will be the final form of it. You will eventually be able to import it and use it. The final form of it is yet to be decided. Again, because this is very technically challenging and many themes rely on $W. So updates will come along the way. This is what we know right next.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll definitely get information to you in the community and through all the other channels that you all follow as we have it, and you'll know what's coming once it is. So to be super clear about that, you'll continue to use $W as is. That'll remain under the $W, or sorry, the Velo only APIs that are in the documentation. So next, will Wix support tree shaking in SDK? And this came up in Velo before. It's been a question that has kind of persisted from the Velo environment. So will SDK be supporting it, or does it support it now?
Okay, so SDK does support tree shaking for self-hosting right now. It's built into the SDK. Currently, the way that the Velo handles packages does not support tree shaking, but this is something that we're working on right now. There is some benefit to it as it decreases the size, the bundle size for the site. It's not a major benefit. There is some benefit. It's more important for self-hosting. But yes, the answer to both is yes, and that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. And the front end functions, as many of you are starting to notice, the SDK versions of your front end functions do return promises. So can we talk a little bit more about why that is?
Yeah. So the reason for that, it relates to what I said before about this being a single stack and want to have one way to develop things in Wix. And one way means that we also need to take into consideration apps, and apps a lot of the time run in a frame, and in which case they do need to run in an async way. In which case, and because of that, it's async by design, so everything stays the same. So as I said, you know how to run it in apps, in sites. It will also work the same way for apps.
Awesome. Thank you so much. A question that's come up a couple of times here in the Q&A and has been answered by Guy, but let's post it live for anybody not reading along. Is there any performance benefit to SDK? Is there any difference there that the developers will see?
So the short answer for that is not really. SDK still refers to the Wix services, and they work as they worked before, and you get the same performance out of those. I will say we are working on performance as we speak. We've made some improvements, and we're gonna make some more.
Always great to hear that. One question that came up also was answered in the chat, but just in case, is SDK only relevant for Studio developers, or can anybody use this?
No, anyone can use it. It's available for Studio. It's available in blocks. It's available in Editor. Go ahead, use it. Please do.
And let's see. And someone asked, if I start a new project today, will it be based on SDK? Do I need to do anything specific? So what's the advice for somebody starting a new project today?
Okay. So for somebody starting a new project today, we are now rolling out. So currently, if you start a new project and you're a Wix user, you are not yet nudged to use the SDK. We are changing gradually the way that the entry point when you start importing things, but you can just go ahead and start using the SDK. You don't need to wait for the tooling to change around that.
All right. Unless anybody has any other questions that are coming in, if you do, please type them in about SDK specifically. Any product questions and feedback that anybody's posted in here, we appreciate that, and I'm going to grab that and we'll get answers to you in another format. We want to keep this focused on SDK. We have some feedback that the quick installation NPM link is on the imports is a nice feature and a nice flow. I would definitely agree with that. And someone is also asking for some examples for the README files for SDK packages. That actually is a question. Didn't come up in here. It came up previously that in our NPM packages, they don't have READMEs when you click on them. Do you know anything about that?
Not off the top of my head, but they should have those, and they will be added.
Yeah, okay. That's probably a better question for the documentation team. We'll get that to them as well. So somebody said it will be added, so we're good. So we have everybody here supporting us today. So I think that looks like most of the questions that have come in. Of course, as everybody can, as questions come to you, if you replay this again, or if you think of something later, please reach out to us in the community, come through in Discord or the forum, wherever you prefer to kind of hang out. If you ask these questions after this webinar, we still will answer them for you, of course. And we'll go through also the conversation here today once I look through the recording and make sure if we've missed anything, if you're yelling at me right now because I didn't answer your question and I didn't see it, we are going to go through these and make sure that we did answer everything and got around to everybody's questions, comments, and feedback. We really, really appreciate all of your time here today. Yasaf and Yoav, do you have anything else that you'd like to say to wrap us up for today?
I'll just add, because I know it's come up, and it still will probably come up with whoever's going to be watching the recording, wherever it may be. We will continue to support. You will still be able to use the legacy Velo APIs. As things are something that because we're asked this a lot of times, we do want to mention it again and again. For your new projects, yes, start using the SDK. This is the recommended way moving forward, and we do want to move forward. We want to see the amazing projects that you want to build. We do recommend that you get acquainted with it, look through the documentation, use the AI tools that we mentioned. And yeah, good things are coming down the line with a couple of the new features and a lot more under the hood. So, yep, stay tuned, and thank you again for joining.